everyone, I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet. Together we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after, I don't know how to describe that loss to the New York Rangers. I mean, the Jets absolutely poured on the shots. I thought that they controlled the game for large stretches of that game. I don't want to fall automatically into the old, I've talked about if the Jets win, doesn't matter if they win ugly. It's about winning. It's about getting the points. So I don't want to fall into this and say it doesn't matter what they look like because, they didn't get the points and that's what matters most. And it is. But I do think that, if you're playing a certain way and trying to find things you can hang your hat on and build success off of, the Jets weren't making the playoffs with a victory here tonight. It's going to take, though, an amazing effort down the stretch to get that. So you want to see signs of a team that looks like they're potentially heading towards that. While the Jets are, drawing penalties like crazy in the last couple of games. I think it was 17 in total over the last 3 games, at least 17. Getting tons of shots on net. They controlled wide swaths of play. I thought the second period they were, a fairly dominant team. But Ken and I were just talking about it before we got on here. The thing about that, if you're a Jets fan, you take a look and you think, again, it's one of these nights where you think the Winnipeg Jets deserved a better fate. I'm sure there's going to be people who feel that way. Maybe some people are going to say it in the chat rooms. But this is what the New York Rangers win like. Do you recognize it? Do you recognize what's happening out there? Because this is what the Winnipeg Jets used to do to teams years ago. They would sit back. They would allow their goaltender to face a ton of high danger chances. Ken is going to narrow down the numbers for you later on, but the Jets won the high danger chance battle here tonight. But they've got the Rangers have the hottest goalie in the league right now. In Igor Shasturkin, who's just may win the Hart Trophy this year, and it looks like he's going to be a walk to get the Vezina. This is Connor Hellebuyck from a few years ago, who used to save the Winnipeg Jets' butts time and time again. Well, that's what the New York Rangers do, and they've honed this thing that the Jets used to do, where if you give them a chance, they're going to pounce, go down the other end and get a timely goal. Remind you of anything? That third goal that Chris Kreider scores, this is following on the tail end of the Jets having absolute pressure nonstop, and all of a sudden they get the puck, throw it up ice. Kreider wins a puck battle, kind of in no man's land, gets Hellebuyck to make a move, boom, it's in the back of the net, and that game is over. The Winnipeg Jets had done to them tonight what the Winnipeg Jets used to do time and time again to other teams. Now, the issue with that, as I'll take it, is this, if the Jets are watching film, and they clearly are if they're building a game plan, this is the outcome that they need to prepare for, is the New York Rangers doing exactly what they did to them on this evening. So it's a failure. Regardless, it's obvious to say it's a failure because they come away with 0 points and now have lost 2 games in a row. All that good feeling that they had winning 2 games against the bottom 2 teams in the league, well, it's kind of behind you now after that loss. But, I mean, in the end, what it is the New York Rangers came out, and that what you saw from them is the game plan that they have trotted out night in and night out in the NHL this year, and they pulled it off here tonight. Jets needed a victory. They needed to find a way to shut down that scoring. I just feel like what ended up happening was the Jets, after falling down 2, to me, the cardinal sin in this game was allowing the first 2 goals the way they did. From that point on, they had to push to get back into the game. They made a strong push in the second, and I think what happens is when you're piling up those shots, when, it's not going in easy for you, as, it's not going to with Shasturkin and net, then you start pushing the puck up ice and taking chances. Well, that play is that they score the 3rd goal on is Logan Stanley jumping up into the play, trying to keep the puck in the zone, trying to keep the pressure on. They feel like they're building something. You make that play, puck gets shipped behind you. Suddenly you get men down ice, and one man in particular down ice, and that game's over. The risk that the Jets had to start taking to get back into that game because they gave up the first 2 goals is what ends up catching up with them and costing them that game. That's my take on it. We're going to need more take on them than that. I want to get into reading the comments from a lot of you here in the chat room who've already been on fire already. I've got a lot of starred comments here. But hey, what I really want to know is what our main man, Kenny Wiebe, is talking about. I've been at the buffet for a little bit here. Kenny's been out taking the T-Bird for a drive. I think I see he's parked it, and he's back into the garage here. So no more time to waste. Let's get the main man in here. Here comes Kenny. Kenny, Terry's got some. He's got some advice for you. Park the T-Bird gas is too expensive. Boy, is he
Good
ever right
point.
there. I
Good
was going to
point.
have some advice. I was going to say, you're getting, like I said, you're getting more colorful every time I see you. Make sure you're slapping on the sunscreen
I
when
got
you're
the
out in the
50 on,
T-Bird.
buddy. I got the 50 out.
There you go. Good stuff. Because you'll need it with the rag top down. I don't know if it's got a rag top, but
It
uh,
does. The
this
top is
is
down. The top is down.
here again. So Gary is already saying, because I talked about a couple good things the Jets did, that I'm putting lipstick on the pig. So be it. That's what we got to do here. But Kenny, you and I talked a little bit before the show. I got a little bit out what I think's going on here. There's tons to talk about
Oh,
after
yeah.
this game. But Ken,
Yes, sir.
take it away. What did you see here tonight, and where do you think this leaves the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, I mean, such an apt description. I mean, I think I got it right. That's what my column is going to be about. I mean, I think the Jets looked in the mirror and found a team that they looked a lot like a couple of years ago. I mean, I know they don't like to live in the past and they're not going to do so, but it's impossible to not see what happened and think it's a complete parallel. I mean, you look at, I mean, I mean, a little bit of context. I mean, I covered the Rangers a couple of series, and
Oh, there goes the garage door.
oh boy, we got things are happening. There we go. There we go.
Loving it.
Things are happening.
Ken's just going to get in. He's going to grab his phone with him. He's going to put it on the dashboard of the T-Bird, and he's going cruising, people. You dared him
Apparently, I
to.
got to get out of here. Unbelievable. So I covered the Rangers a couple years in the early 2000s, like 2012, 2013. So Chris Kreider was always a guy that you thought, when is his 30 or 40 goal a year going to happen, right? Here's this guy, 6'4", 6'5", big, strong guy. He's got speed. He goes to the front of the net, plays with some edge. So you wondered when he was going to have the breakout season. Well, guess what? 38 goals right now. I mean, unbelievable year that he's having. I mean, the first one that you talked about it, opportunistic. I mean, the Jets were in proper position. The puck hits Josh Morrissey's stick, ends up on Kreider's stick, and before you can even look, it's in the net. Right? I wouldn't say it's a breakdown, but what you saw was a guy got to the front of the net and did a great job. I love the way that Kreider plays. He's the kind of guy every team wishes they had on their roster. And then Shasturkin. I mean, Shasturkin is vintage Hellebuck, right? I mean, this is at his very best, playing unbelievably well. Oh, man, I didn't handle that very well. I should have hit the mute button, I guess. So
Don't worry about it. It only adds a little bit of color to the show, I think.
yeah, no doubt
Atmosphere.
about it. Yeah, like Stacy and Kim are threatening to sit in the T-Bird as backdrop here, but
Bring it
they have
on.
not.
Bring it
They
on.
have not. Yeah, they have not done so quite yet. But I mean, man, I mean, the Jets played a mostly solid game, but again, they're coming, like you said, Sean, coming from a chase position. I mean, the Jets have a couple early power plays. They don't score. And, next thing you know, they're chasing the game again. I mean, and also, quick thing too. I mean, I understand. I understand that folks were up in arms when it came to Barclay Goodrow signing with the Rangers. Oh, 6 years, too much money. Well, suddenly Barclay Goodrow's threatening to score close to 20 goals. So,
Oh,
and
yeah.
again, he's the kind of guy that teams want if you want to go on a playoff run, right? Depth scoring, excellent job by him. Jacob Trouba, another strong game against his former team.
Oh,
Obviously, I
boy.
mean,
Holy.
how about the knuckle puck? That was quite a shot. Great setup on the goal, obviously. And there too, I mean, you saw Pierre-Luc Dubois battling again, but Trouba's not backing down, right? I mean, let's be honest. That's the kind of edge the Jets could use on their back end right now, right? I mean, he's having a very solid season, and he had a great game against his former team. But in terms of the Jets' performance, we'll start to break that down a little bit further. But I mean, it's right now, Sean. It's rinse and repeat, right? I mean, that's basically what we're seeing right now, right? Jets get a lot of shots. This time, I think they actually did a better job of getting to the inside than they did against Dallas. But it didn't convert because Igor Shasturkin is not only the Vezina winner, he might be the Hart Trophy winner. He certainly is going to be in the top 3 voting on a lot of ballots, including my own.
So I'll say this. Earlier on in the game, I got a good. This is the first time I've seen him play live before, so I got a good look at what makes him so special. There was a point really early in the game where the Jets got a point shot, and they had a whole bunch of traffic, and I don't know how he saw it, but Shasturkin, it's traffic. It's not just seeing it for a goaltender. It's the fact that
Battle.
you're a little shaky on whether or not someone is going to tip that thing. So your faith in putting your blocker where the shot is going to be is always a little out there because you're not sure if the puck is going to change direction before it gets there. Shasturkin takes a look. I don't know what the window was that he saw the puck, but he saw it. And not only did he get out and just make like the most assured blocker save that I've seen a goalie make in that position in a long time, but he redirected it perfectly so that it was into the corner and out of danger, so that all of the commotion happening in front of him was inconsequential. So let's give credit where he's due. This is a guy who knows how to fight through traffic. So maybe I'm being a little bit hard if I think there wasn't enough traffic. But I will say this. I thought that the best chances the Winnipeg Jets had in that game was, one, the chance that the Oilers scored on, and two, right before the end of the second period, and it's almost a carbon copy. The Jets get it up ice. Nick Ehlers kind of rolls into the middle to get ready to shoot. Who's in front of the net? Right away again, like he was on the goal. Adam Lowry is setting the perfect screen. He throws it. It barely misses the net, but you'll remember this. It's the only time you saw Shasturkin look panicked in the game tonight. He had no idea where the puck was. It bounced off the boards, came back out in front. Had there been more time on the clock, my guess is Adam Lowry could have had a good crack at trying to bang it in, and the rest of the Jets could have followed in and maybe created an opportunity out of that. But that, and then the other time when he reached behind him thinking the puck was behind him, was actually underneath him. But in all three of those cases, there was a heavy presence of players in front of the net. And I just think there are too many episodes with this team time and time again, not only tonight, but the other night, and let's just be honest, not just throughout this season, but years and years past. Whereas on a night like this, when you've got guys coming down the wing with speed like Kyle Connor or Mark Scheifele or Blake Wheeler, just cut that shoulder down, get to the net, just get the puck there. It doesn't need to be nice. It doesn't need to be a phenomenal shot that goes off the crossbar and in. It doesn't need to be a beautiful pass no one was expecting all the way across the ice and a slap shot into the back of the net. I know that they feel like they need to do that when they run into a good goaltender, because that's how they feel that they have to create an issue here. But there was just a point tonight where I just thought that they lost the plot. They lost the ability to kind of get the idea of, let's just get it to the front of the net and poke one in, make it ugly. To your point, that's exactly what we're talking about. The first goal that is scored on the power play, it's not a designed play, but they score because Chris Kreider is exactly where he should be, and the puck gets to the front of the net.
Inside position,
the back
right?
Of the net. Inside position. He's where he should be. That's why they scored, because they get the puck to the front of the net, whether or not it was intentional to get there, but they've got a guy to capitalize on it when it happens, right? And I just think that how many times, Ken, did we see the Jets carry the puck into the zone, slam on the brakes, try and throw it all the way across the ice above the ringette line and turn it over? Because that Rangers team, one of the things that they do really well, they've got great sticks. They break up passing lanes. That was what they were looking for. There was a couple times, Ken, during the power plays for the Jets tonight that the Rangers got a little bit discombobulated, and for a split second there were passing lanes open. But boy, oh boy, one thing that really impressed me about the Rangers is in those moments where they got discombobulated, it took them within 3 seconds, they were back where they were supposed to be, and all those passing lanes that the Jets always love to try and force were shut down. They weren't there tonight, and that's why you didn't see the success on the power play that you would expect with the amount of chances that they had. And I just think that, Nick Ehlers touched on it afterwards. He said they're not doing enough of the things they need to do to win, and to me, that's an obvious one. Ask Dave Lowry about it. Dave Lowry, and we're going to get into this, Dave Lowry again said he liked this game. He liked where the Jets game was. He liked the number of shots they got, the number of high danger chances. But I don't think that you can take a look on a night where you lose 4-1 and see that, the Rangers goals come from, the second one comes from right in front of the net. The third one comes from right in tight in front of the net. The fourth one comes, yes, from the point, but with someone screening right in front of the net. The Rangers won the game tonight because they didn't come anywhere close to shooting as much as the Jets did, but they more often got to the more dangerous place to create chaos, and they turned that chaos into 4 goals. The Jets turned their lack of chaos into 1, but just a whole bunch of shots.
Yeah, and what did I text you during the first period, Sean? I mean, the most
Oh yeah,
impressive thing to me about the Rangers, their back pressure is absolutely relentless. And that's something that we saw early in the year from the Jets, but we have not seen it enough lately for me.
yeah,
I think their ability to, and also the congestion, their ability to prevent. I mean, you might get an entry, but you have nowhere to go after you get a zone entry, right? Don't you think? I mean, there were tons of times where the Jets were able to get over the blue line, but there was like a four-man swarm. Like, where are you going to get your shot lane through? And again, winning battles. Sean, we talk about the skilled guys not always being the most diligent. Well, what did we see on the Trouba goal? What an excellent job by Artemi Panarin to pick the
yeah.
pocket of Kyle Connor. I mean, Connor turned, Panarin attacked him, picked his pocket, got it to the point, goal. Like, that's your skilled player. So if you're a checking line guy and you see that kind of effort from the most skilled player on your team, what kind of effort do you think you're going to be giving? First in the offensive zone and then on the back pressure. That's the biggest thing right now. I mean, it's crazy to think how quickly the Rangers turned it around with the public rebuild slash retooling. Right? I mean, this
Yes.
is, again, of course, goaltending has helped. Shasturkin is playing at an elite level, but they have the combination. They have the skilled players, they have the depth players, and they have the combination platter of size and skill, both working at the same time. Their structure is very sound, and a lot of the things, again, they're not the best team in the East, but would it surprise you if they found a way to get to the conference final like the Islanders have done?
Good point.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. I mean, it's a hard road for everybody in the East, but man, they got a very good team. And I mean, for the Jets, there were signs, and of course they did some things well, but I didn't. Again, I a lot of shots, and I do agree that they got them from better areas, but um, you know, they got to do a better job. I mean, I understand. I'm not out here saying you got to, they got to convert a little bit more. And I think their back pressure is all about commitment. I mean, that's what your effort is, what you can control. And I think the Jets are working hard, but when it comes to back pressure, that is something that every team can do better. We've seen signs of it from the Jets, but they were the second best team when it came to back pressure tonight. Don't you agree?
I do, but I think, and this is something we've talked about on this podcast a number of times before. This is my take, anyways, on this. Like the Jets play a style, and I'll say this: lately, if you notice teams trying to enter the Jets blue line, they're doing a really good job of standing up on their blue line. But
Mm-hmm.
their effort, the Jets' effort to create offense comes from them pressuring the other team, trying to force turnovers, and then create odd man rushes down ice. Now, that worked a great effect for the Dallas Stars the other game. It's a good tool to have in your toolkit. It's good to even be a team that scores off the rush, but what do we know that those plays disappear in the playoffs? You have to add into it the healthy dose of being able to score in the front of the net. I digress. What I come back to is the Jets are constantly trying to create opportunity by pinching in place. And traditionally you think of pinching as trying to keep the puck in at the blue line on the boards, but I'm just talking about any time the Jets are trying to catch a player, turn the puck over quick, and head up ice with it. The problem with those plays is the kind of goals that you saw from a couple of them from Jason Robertson the other night, and definitely the third one by Chris Kreider tonight. Those are the kind of goals that you end up giving up when you kind of do this all for nothing risk that the Jets have built into this game. And that hasn't changed under Dave Lowry. That was what the Jets did years ago. I've said this before in 2017, 2018. The Jets, I was told by other coaches around the league, tried to turn over the puck, tried to pressure you further up the ice than anyone else. Well, that's good, because if you're trying to turn over the puck in the other team's zone, it gives you a long sheet of ice to get back and erase the mistakes that you've created here. The problem is now the Jets don't have the Dustin Bufflins, the Trubas, the Tyler Myers, those kind of players to do that anymore on the back end. So while they're still trying to pressure the puck, they're pressuring the puck not quite as far down ice. So if they do turn it over, it really costs you now, because it's going up ice and there's not enough time to get back and correct your mistakes. So that's my take on that. I don't necessarily think it's that the Jets aren't getting back pressure, or sorry, they're not getting back pressure, and they're not getting back pressure pressure because a lot of the goals are coming from turnovers that are heading the other direction, and the Jets can't get the back pressure because they're heading in the wrong direction. All of a sudden, they're heading down ice in an offensive posture, and suddenly it changes like that and it's going defense. That's what happened on that Kreider play. All the Jets were set to attack and were trying to score. The puck gets turned over, thrown down ice very simply and easily, and boom, they get beat to the other end of the ice. That's happened far too many times this year, and to me, that's one of the things that creates problems with the Jets being a back pressure team, is because they're always heading in the wrong direction, because they play a style of play that is a lot of risk and it can create reward. But this year, the balance of risk versus reward, in my mind, has been off. That's one thing I'll say this, Ken. We keep talking about what's wrong with the Jets. Why aren't they getting there? That, to me, is something that has consistently existed from their first game of the year against the Anaheim Ducks. This team has a risk-reward quotient to its game that has been tilted and has been off this year, and that's what's cost them. That's consistent with this Jets team this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, Sean. I mean, I don't disagree, but I mean, the year they played their best hockey, they had a higher risk quotient, right? I mean, they were very aggressive in the neutral zone in 2017-18 when they were at their best success, but
not even just in the neutral zone, further up ice in the offensive zone,
far blue line, they were attacked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but the personnel is different right now, so
exactly.
I think it's super interesting. Now let's get down to a lot of things here. Obviously, the Kreider goal was a backbreaker for the Jets because they were pushing. Because I watched the post game, but you were in the room. For everyone knows what happened. It was Nate Schmidt got spun around a little bit. He was flat-footed. Kreider's one of the fastest guys in the league. He kind of thought he was going to go inside. He went outside. See ya. And one quick thing about Hellebuyck trying for the poke check. Connor Hellebuyck's been beaten on a lot of breakaways this year, Sean. So I actually applaud him for trying something else, even if it may not be his forte. But it obviously didn't work, and he said himself afterward, with the benefit of hindsight, he probably wouldn't have handled it that way. A, what did you think of Hellebuyck's assessment? B, what did you think of Ehlers' assessment of the play? And then C, this is a full-on setup, the trip to the buffet. Then what did you think of Dave Lowry's answer when Mike McIntyre asked him about that sequence as well, and what the other players had said about it?
Well, let's be honest here. It's Mika Zibanejad that makes that pass. That pass is, we talked about these plays. That pass was, I described something as sublime the other day. I'm going to do it again. That was a sublime pass for exactly what you talked about. He finds a mismatch in one of the fastest players in the league in Chris Kreider. He throws it along the boards so that Nate Schmidt can't touch it, and puts it into an area for a player to skate into and win that race. But he does so in a way, he doesn't flip it down the middle of the ice so that Nate Schmidt can fully concentrate on where that puck is. He throws it in a way that puts Nate Schmidt in a situation where he has to look over this shoulder, and then the puck travels over this way, and then he has to turn this way, which allows Kreider to switch from the outside to the inside and get the inside track on the puck. And then by the time he looks up and sees where it's going, Kreider's past him. But not only that, he does it in a way that he puts the puck in an area. And believe me, I don't think this is a mistake. Some people will just say it's luck. I don't agree with that.
It was not luck at all.
They've got good touch. He puts it in a place where not only does he... So the brilliance of this pass is not only does it discombobulate Nate Schmidt, and rightfully so, it's recognition of a guy with speed, rightfully so, but it also puts the puck in a spot where he forces Connor Hellebuyck to make a split-second decision. Right. Should I get out on this puck? Should I try and beat the guy to it? He comes to a situation where he's thinking that Nate Schmidt has the inside edge on the guy. Suddenly Kreider's got this puck. Suddenly he's got to make a decision. He makes the decision. Chris Kreider is not just fast. He's got a long reach, gets the puck, and Hellebuyck, trying to make the play, opens up the backhand for him to score. Yeah. It's a phenomenal play by Chris Kreider. Don't get me wrong. But that pass by Mika Zibanejad is a guy playing 3D Chinese checkers against people out on the ice playing whatever, I don't know, hopscotch. It was absolutely gorgeous. Phenomenal play by him. Now, I take a look on I don't know what Nick Ehlers is talking about. Nick Ehlers isn't on the ice for that. Nick Ehlers is like the mistake there is made is Logan Stanley jumps up and tries to
Yeah.
contest a middle puck there and doesn't get it chipped away. But even then, like I don't think that the risk is there. Like I don't hold Logan Stanley to the error on that because there's one guy back and one guy pressing. It's a two-man, it's a one-on-one battle for the puck that the Jets lose. I don't think in that situation that you can really be upset about that because if you're Logan Stanley, you are trying to generate a goal. There's only 10 minutes left in the period. It's getting to be time to activate, so he activates, and he does so in a situation that shouldn't be that dangerous. I honestly look at that play, and I know that the Jets are like saying, they shouldn't have done this and they shouldn't have done that, and things happen in the split second. Dave Lowry agreed that he thought maybe they would have liked Connor Hellebuck to have made a different play, but this is hockey. Really good teams and good players force you into tight decisions and make your brain wonder pick A or B. That's what they do. You want to know about a guy like puck dragging someone? Like you're making a guy think of taking the poke check. If he takes the poke check and he bites on it, you puck drag and you walk around a guy. That's what hockey is. It's presenting two options to a player, making him choose the wrong one, and then going around him and exploiting that. That's what good players do. That's what happened there. I don't really hold anyone to account. Nick Ehlers, and we'll get into that. About him kind of like trying to take the responsibility for that goal. He's not even on the ice. He's kind of talking about a good shift that they had. If you remember, he kind of put the puck between his legs and tried to make a pass, and it was a turnover. Let's get into that right now. I've got zero problem with that. And sorry, I shouldn't say zero problem. It's not a good play. It's not a smart play. But we've heard this from Paul Maurice in the past and a lot of coaches around the league. The new NHL is a league in which coaches actually encourage their players to try things, try skill, and make mistakes with the assumption that if you're playing a good team game more often than not, you are going to cover off the turnover on the back end because you're playing the game the right way. Nick Ehlers is a guy you want trying things. He scores goals because he tries things. So Nick Ehlers standing up and falling on his sword for that one is just Nick Ehlers, as Dave Lowry pointed out, being a really, really great guy. Other than that, Dave Lowry talking about those guys, they would have liked them to have made different plays. Sure, you would have liked those guys to make different plays. They didn't. That's just how it goes. You can say that a million times over. I don't really hang anyone out to dry there. That was they were playing a team with really good skill, and they got outskilled. And maybe another way of putting it is Chris Kreider, who's got 38 goals. This was a shootout between two of the best goal scorers in the league in this game, Chris Kreider and Kyle Connor. One guy won the battle here tonight. The skilled players, the Mikas Zibanejads, the Jacob Trubas, and the Chris Kreiders came out. They won this game tonight. Igor Shasturkin came out. He won this game tonight. Connor Hellebuck didn't. Kyle Connor didn't. And I'm not placing this at their feet, but this was a game where the New York Rangers stars came to play and won this game, and the Winnipeg Jets stars did.
Yeah, I mean, they delivered. I don't know that they didn't come to play, but they certainly did not deliver, the Jet Stars, that's for sure. I mean, let's get into, some folks are asking about concussions and Kopp. Andrew Kopp, to me, we've been consistent with this the whole time. And, to be honest, we talked about the parallels. How good would Andrew Kopp look as the third-line center for the New York Rangers right now?
Yeah.
Kopp with Goodrow, that would be kind of, to me, reminiscent of the Yanni Gourde line. With the Tampa Bay Lightning. What are they going to give up potentially? I don't know. I do see them as a fit in terms of a potential trade. I don't think that a GM would be, again, when you're dealing with concussions, of course you have to be cognizant of them. I don't think that it's going to be a concern for a team trading for Andrew Kopp or making offers for Andrew Kopp. Unless the Jets find a way to sign Andrew Kopp, I still think he is probably going to have to be on the move. We've been talking about it, right now the Jets, it's a mirage right now, right? They still feel like they're close enough to the playoff line, but right now they're not they don't look like a playoff team. I think that's just, those are the facts, right? I understand they've only had 2 games with Ehlers in the lineup, and Ehlers can make a massive difference, but we saw what a playoff team looked like tonight, and right now the Rangers look like a playoff team, and the Jets need to upgrade, they need to up their game, or else they're not going to be a playoff team. So to me, regardless of, we talked about this before, I think that the Jets need to trade Kopp and Stastny. unless they can sign Kopp to a long-term deal. And like I said, I've said for a long time, I think Andrew Kopp would be open to it. I think I could see a scenario again, and we don't want to get into all this. We'll get into it when the time is right. But if the Jets would consider moving Mark Scheifele, whether it's now or in the off season, I could see a scenario where then one of the ways to minimize the loss, depending on the return, would be to use that money to sign Andrew Kopp. And that way, I mean, of course, Kopp is not as dynamic as Mark Scheifele, but he's a better defensive player. So you could, what's the cost benefit analysis? And again, it would always depend on the offers. And like I said, I'm not advocating to trade Mark Scheifele, but if that's something that's on the radar, one of the ways to minimize the loss of all that offense would be to commit to Andrew Kopp as the second line center. And then you're looking at a 55 to 60 point, maybe 55-point player, but he prevents a lot of goals and he can play in all situations. So I still think, like I said, I've said this for weeks. We can check the receipts all we want. I think Andrew Kopp is going to be going to a contender. I know Kevin Cheveldayoff said with Pierre LeBrun in The Athletic that he didn't want to necessarily sell or that he didn't have to sell, but to me, I think this is another great example. And again, let's see how it goes against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But if the Jets finish this homestand with only one win, I mean, I think you're getting to the area where you're going to have to be honest with your assessment of where the team is at and what you need to do in order to retool on the fly.
Okay, so let's get into that. I'm glad that you
Sure.
dovetailed into that perfectly. Let's get into this because I wanted to talk about this. Here's my take, and there's a lot of people at the beginning
Sure.
of before it opened up here. Jets should start selling. Terry says this team's done, so let's look forward to a new 5-year rebuilding plan. Noxie here says that should be the nail in the coffin for both the Jets' playoff chances and Chevy's tenure with the team. Philly Danger says, I like Chevy. I think it's the coach. Maurice said we need a new voice. Lowry ain't cutting the take. Look at Vancouver. Oh, we'll get into this one later. But here's where I'm at with this. One, I calculated it, and this is being generous. I think it's going to take 96 points for the Jets to get into the playoffs. Maybe 95, but if you get 96 points, you're going to be sneaking in. In order for the Jets to hit that mark, they need to have a 731 winning percentage. Kenny, guess how many teams in the NHL have a 731 winning percentage? That or above?
Well, Colorado would be one.
One.
Calgary would be two.
Nope. Calgary doesn't
they're not.
have that high
Just
winning
under?
percentage.
Okay, on the other side, Florida does.
Nope.
Tampa, really?
Tampa doesn't either.
Well, then there aren't that many because those guys are
Colorado
leading. There's only
Avalanche.
one team, right?
The
All right.
Colorado Avalanche and the Carolina Hurricanes are the only two teams in the NHL who are winning at above a 731 clip. So the task in front of the Winnipeg Jets is nothing less than playing like one of the top two teams in the entire NHL who have been having phenomenal seasons. Phenomenal.
So before we get into this topic, you were there. I thought that Hellebuck, I need you to talk about Hellebuck's demeanor in the press conference. I thought he looked demoralized quickly, but then we'll get into the retooling. Because to me,
on this. Yeah.
I thought he said all the right things as he normally does. I wouldn't say he looked defeated, but he certainly looked demoralized to me.
Agreed, 100%. Frustrated. I mean, he's voicing his frustration. He's saying that he's clearly saying that they're frustrated. It's honesty, and again, you know how I feel.
Oh yeah, you applaud it. Yes,
Nick Pierce and he coming out. I think there's honesty that you're getting from that. Now, Dave Lowry comes out and says, I like this game. And, you don't hear what you heard from those players from Dave Lowry. And maybe you can't if it's the coach. Maybe you can't do that. I think you can. I think that, if you have to consistently talk to your team and say, no, we were really good. Things are turning around. Everything's fine. Everything's coming around the corner. If you have to talk like that as a coach, I think that you are a coach that believes that you've got a fragile roster that you can't tell the truth to. Like there has to, Ken, they're an under 500 team under Dave Lowry. There has to have been some stretches in his tenure that he could turn and point out that this wasn't good enough. The effort wasn't good enough. We need to be better. We need to have a better sense of urgency. We can't be making the mistake that we're making. There has to have been a game during his tenure where he could say that. We didn't hear that.
No,
yeah. Go on.
Agreed, but it wouldn't be the last two games, right? I mean, the last two games were close to their template. I mean, they did generate, and I understand, Sean, and I'm with you when it comes to if your team is outshot 40-20. I'm all for a little bit more honesty, but I mean, I don't. I mean, there's not a lot of beefs with Dave Lowry in terms of how the Jets played, except for the goals they gave up, I guess. So I mean, like I said, I'm not here saying it's a perfect effort, but I mean,
Okay, I know what you're saying, and I get that.
let's stay on Hellebuck a little bit longer here. Like I know that in order of views,
Sure, sure. I was kind of trying to work my way back.
I know. Okay.
Ken, I don't tell you how to eat your buffet. What are you doing telling me how to eat?
Right.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I guess what I was trying to get to is like I do think that the Jets can take that. I do think they can have these conversations because Nick Ehlers had it with the media out there. And Nick Ehlers said the thing that you're saying, what can Dave Lowry say? I think he can say what Nick Ehlers said. Like the Jets lost these last couple games because they were mistake prone, right? Like that's the issue. And we know about this in the NHL. And I thought that Nick Ehlers put it absolutely perfectly. You can't win. If you want to win in the NHL, you have to limit those mistakes as much as you can. And that's what's happening with the Winnipeg Jets is they're mistake prone. They're making mistakes that are costing them games. People want to know why the Jets are in games and they always end up on the wrong side of those games. Or here's another one. They want to know why, the Jets have 10 overtime losses. Take a look at, like, we can think of a couple games against Dallas. They end up scoring on obvious mistakes that are made by the Winnipeg Jets. So, like, this is what's costing the Jets this year. Now, is that a focus thing? I don't know. Is it an effort thing? I would suggest it most definitely has been an effort thing at certain times of the year. But if you are a mistake-prone team, show me a mistake-prone hockey team, and I'll show you a team that's not destined for the playoffs. And that's where we're at. So if you've got Ehlers saying that, if you've got Connor Hellebuck saying that, I like to hear it. I think that this team is a little bit afraid of looking in the mirror or looking at the boogeyman every once in a while, and I think it gets in their way. I think what happened today is Connor Hellebuck, he's frustrated, but I think Connor Hellebuck and Nick Ehlers both acknowledge that there's a boogeyman out there right now, and they have to be able to stare him down and get somewhere, not pretend he doesn't exist, and then ignore the problems that come with that boogeyman.
Yeah, see, this is the topic that we disagree on. So to me, what have we been talking about the Jets? They look like a fragile team. So I don't think for one second the head coach should be piling on in that situation. Like, I know where you're coming from, and I think that Dave is being a lot more direct and honest with the players in the room. I don't think for one second he needs to publicly be coming out and making a situation that's already difficult harder on his group by piling on. That's my personal take. I don't think we didn't see Paul Maurice do it, and like we've had this debate before. I don't see a lot of teams, not even the championship caliber teams. Yes, Trotz can sometimes be an exception, but the majority of times you see coaches are harder on their teams when they're winning. Daryl Sutter is a great example. When the only time you hear Daryl Sutter kind of put the wood to his team is when they win. When they're struggling, unless they got blown out, then you might hear him say something a little bit more direct. But to me, it's by design. And I don't think for one second, and I know you feel the same way, I don't think for one second that Dave Lowry doesn't acknowledge that the Jets are in a tough spot. He just doesn't feel comfortable talking publicly about it. That's my personal take on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's.
I know. We don't. This is one of the few things we don't agree on, and that's okay. That's part of what makes it fun.
That's for sure. The conflict. I can feel the tension. So let's get out of here. So let's lead to that, because that leads perfectly. Again, you're doing my job for me here tonight, Ken. You kind of dovetail.
Put it on a tee, buddy. Put it on a tee.
Let's get to where the Jets are at, because again, a lot of people think that we're at the stage where the Jets should be selling Stonewall. Dave here says we're for sure sellers right now. I was thinking about this. I was talking a little bit with Sarah Oleski about this after the show. Here's my take. Jets, they play Tampa. Tampa comes rolling into town here on Tuesday. If they lose to Tampa Bay, never mind what you were talking about them coming away with one win on this homestand. If they lose to Tampa Bay, we talked about this and we broke it down, Ken, 9 weeks left in the season. They've got room for, never mind the .731 winning percentage, never mind having to play as though you are one of the top two teams in the league. The Jets, if they lose that game, they've given up their ability to lose a game next week and the week after. Like, they've fallen right behind and need to start playing perfect hockey. So to me, if they lose that game, what they've shown in the last little while is that they're running out of time, but two, if you take a look at simply at the numbers, what they are showing is they're not a team that's going to the playoffs by the numbers. Simply, as of late, what they need to do, we've set the stake. You must be this tall to ride this ride. The Jets keep walking under that little clown hand at the fair. They're just not getting there. They're too short to get on that ride. They haven't shown that they're hitting the growth spurt that they need to hit. To me, that if they lose on Tuesday, there's no way. It's derelict of duty to be a general manager and look at a team in this situation and not say, we have to approach this as sellers, because they're in a stage right now where what losing and going into the trade deadline is providing them with an opportunity. It's providing them an opportunity to move a guy like Andrew Kopp or Stastny or maybe another defenseman if they feel that someone can step into that role and move that to build towards the future. And if they don't come to the realization of what they need to do and get there, and believe me, there's plenty of time for it to happen. They can lose some other games. But to me, if they lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning, everything that they have shown Kevin Cheveldayoff in this crucial time when he went out and talked to Pierre LeBrun and said, yeah, no, we still believe in this team. There's no reason by the numbers for Kevin Cheveldayoff to believe this team has what it takes to make the playoffs before the trade deadline if they lose that next game. It is derelict of duty if he does not start looking at this team and what he can sell to keep whatever he needs intact, but he needs to go get assets and he needs to start thinking that way. He should be thinking that way right now, but it's derelict of duty to not be thinking that way if they lose to Tampa on Tuesday.
Well, I mean, it's natural to have belief when you believe in the roster that you assembled. But, further to that, Sean, to me, it's not just pending UFAs, right? If they're looking to extend the window, I think they have to be looking deeper. And, we're talking blockbuster. But again, blockbuster is tough to make in season. But I think that, here's the other part. I think that the Jets need to make room for Ville Heinola and Dylan Samberg to be in the lineup.
Agreed.
During the stretch drive, and probably the sooner the better. And again, I understand as the conductor of the Gus bus, it's partly obligation, but I want to see David Gustafsson in the lineup. He can help the Winnipeg Jets. Like, he does a lot of the things that the Jets don't do that well. So to me, there's no one that has played in that depth role that has shown, and I understand completely that Gustafsson, it's on him. He was not able to get out of the first period in 2 of the games that he played. But he's gone back to the Moose. He's starting to play well again. I think they got to find a way to get him in the lineup because they're looking for secondary scoring. And on the fourth line, Toninaato's done a nice job there. Jansen Harkins has had some moments. But it's been a tough go for Vesalainen. Yes, tonight he played well at times. He had so tonight is a great example, Sean, right? So he comes down on that wing. He's with Scheifele and Wheeler. He gets a bump-up shift. He finally gets that wrister off. Shasturkin has to make a really good glove save. But they haven't seen that enough this year, right? That's been part of the problem. He's got to keep that up. So again, how are they going to find a way to make room on the back end? So that becomes the next question. So is it one trade? Is it a package deal? Is there a contending team that's going to take one of the defensemen in a deal with Kopp or Stastny? How are they going to find a way? And do you think they will open up those spots for those two guys to be playing?
Well, I think they should, but think, Ken, about the symbolism of making that move. Like, a lot of people, okay, if we're talking about moving guys, I think a lot of the names that come up, it's not going to be Josh Morrissey. We know that. No. I don't think it's going to be Neil Pionk, because I think Neil Pionk, they made a commitment to him. They like what they see from him, so I think they think he's a player. You know what? When you get...
And you'd be selling low, right? On Pionk, you'd be selling low.
For sure. And the fact of the matter is, when you get a player who comes to Winnipeg and says, I want to be here long term, so I'm going to put pen to paper, that means something more in a market like Winnipeg, I think, that it does in most other markets. Hey, I've had some conversations with some of the people behind the scenes from the Oilers lately. They are dealing with this exact same thing, right? It's a real thing in these markets to be able to get guys. So when you get a guy who locks down Usually you want to stay true to those guys. So you're getting into the territory, Ken, if you're trying to move guys who other teams are going to see and have value. You're talking about guys like Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt. If you are
and DeMello
Kevin and DeMello, but if you are Kevin Cheveldayoff, who basically came out earlier this year and said, I think I've found the caramel secret here, everybody. I think I've solved the problem that we've had here for such a long time. Moving those guys who he moved and got, not just for this year, Ken, not just to plug that hole, but because they fit the team's window. Their contracts line up with Scheifele's and Wheelers and Hellebucks. This was a calculated move to bring in guys who were going to lock this team down and have them ready to contend for the Stanley Cup for the next 3 years. Well, holy smokes! If he starts moving those guys, that is a full-on admission by Kevin Cheveldayoff that the moves that he told you had got his team there, that they didn't work. And he's moving on from that. And if you start moving those guys to create space for players, I also think it's a little bit of an admission that says you're going to be rebuilding a little bit next year. Hey, can a guy like Dylan Samberg walk in and play and fill that role and keep this team competitive? I believe he can, but there's a question mark to it, right? Ken, we don't know that for certain. We don't know what those players look like. If you bring up Ville Heinola, what does a full year of Ville Heinola look like? A lot of people are going to be happy with it, but are you going to be a contending team, one of the best teams in the league, with those players learning on their first year on the job in the NHL? Maybe they can, but you don't know that for certain. So if you are making that move, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff and you go beyond moving Stastny and moving Andrew Copp, you are pointing that what you thought was a Stanley Cup winning roster is not that anymore, and you are changing tact. And that's a big message to send out for a guy who hates making messages that communicate to the public.
For sure, Sean, but it would be my counter. This mix is not working on the back end. So if you have options, especially an option like Ville Heinola, who has a higher ceiling, don't you have to, even now, I don't think that it would be an admission. It would be an admission that you want to try something else and see if it works.
And here, let me just jump in and say something out here. I agree with that, Ken, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think really good bosses are able to take a look at the mistakes they've made, honestly look at their work, and if they've made a mistake, stop and address that issue, right? And so the question is, do we believe that Kevin Cheveldayoff is the guy who's going to do that? Do we believe Kevin Cheveldayoff is going to look at his body of work and say, guys, I messed this up. We're moving on. They've got a core here that they have stuck with for an extremely long time. And there has been no admission at any point that maybe, just maybe, the core that they've had here needs some tweaking. In fact, it's been the opposite. It's been a belligerent, stubborn, we've got this right, just you wait and see, right up until he talked to Pierre LeBrun for that article. It's what he's saying right now, Ken. This is not the style of Kevin Cheveldayoff to turn and say, I got this wrong, let's try something different. He hasn't done that. He's tried the same thing now for a very long time. So doing that, to me, is what I'm saying, would be a clear departure from what we know of Kevin Cheveldayoff, and to me, that sends a clear message.
To me, I'm not going to go, you're not necessarily saying this either. I don't think bringing in Schmidt and Dillon is a mistake, and I wouldn't move those two guys. So I think you have to move other guys then. So is there a concert tomorrow or what? Might have to mute.
I don't know what's going on. Yeah,
maybe mute when I talk. So to me, Sean, it's not an admission. It's a trying to look for a solution that is in-house already. And so the other part of that would be, if they're not willing to make room for one or two of those players, then you have to consider moving one of the prospects for forward help, don't you? I mean, right now they have a glut of defensemen. They've gone from shortage to surplus in an awfully quick hurry. Some folks would say they should have done it sooner, but guess what? Those players weren't available sooner, so it wasn't that easy. So now you're in a situation where, to me, and again, I'm not saying that Ville Heinola is the savior here, but look at how he's gone down to look at the goal he helped set up for Austin Pacansky the other night, using his speed. Are there going to be mistakes? Yes, of course. There are also mistakes on the veterans that are currently in the lineup. So I think that's a good one. I just think that, to me, it's not even necessarily an admission. It's a search for solutions, which is what, when you're in a bit of a rut, you have to look for solutions. So again, I know this is not easy, and it's not like when you're with your buddy and finding trading cards, and you're trying to get the Gretzky rookie for a Yaroslav Pozar third year that might have a pen mark on it. I mean, you're not going to be able to fleece someone, but I think there are solutions that you can check out. Ooh, excuse me. Unmute.
You're done at the buffet table. Sorry, it is so loud in here. I can't. Like
Well,
I'm trying to get.
we'll cut out soon.
I hear what you're saying. I just can't quite pick up on your when you're done and when you're starting. So I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I guess the conversation to be had is what they need to do here. It's funny because I've seen some people bring it up, and I know that General Imler, I haven't seen him in here, but we know that he is a Calgary Flames fan, and it's been interesting to hear from him. We've heard the comparable quite often about the Calgary Flames and the cautionary tale that people believe comes with that. The Calgary Flames last year were a bad team. They didn't make the playoffs. Everyone was saying blow it up. Everyone was saying you got to go into the offseason. You got to move Johnny Gaudreau. You got to move Sean Monahan. That's the way this is going to go in this situation. They don't do that. Oh my goodness. They don't do that. They stick with those guys, and now all of a sudden they're looking like one of the most dangerous guys or teams in the entire league. So a lot of people are saying, use that as the example. And I think Kevin Cheveldayoff is one of those guys who believes that. I do think that, I don't think that Kevin Cheveldayoff thinks that this team needs to be blown up and a lot of stuff needs to be moved. So they've been using that. I was on the CJOB pregame show with Kelly and John Shannon the other day, and this conversation came up about this Calgary Flames team, right? And, the cautionary tale that comes with this. I absolutely love the way John Shannon introduced this. He said, okay, you've got the Calgary Flames, right, as an example. How about I throw this example at you? I'll throw the Minnesota Wild at you. And why the Minnesota Wild? Because the Minnesota Wild were a team that couldn't seem to get anywhere for a really long time. And then they took a really big, risky move by buying out the two biggest contracts and probably what was supposed to be the two biggest culture carriers in that dressing room in Parise and Suter. They did that. They took a risk. It's going to be with them for a couple of years because they've limited their ability to spend money because of those players, but they got them out of there. And barring the fact that they've gone 2-7 in their last 9 games, it's been a staggering turnaround for that team. I love the way John Shannon brought it up because he brought that up, pointed that out, and never said anything about the Jets. But what is he talking about when he talks about moving Parise and Suter and comparing it to the Jets?
Well, I mean, you're looking at your longest tenured players, Sean. I mean, that's what he's looking at. So
he's looking specifically at Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele. He's saying that if you need a culture change, and that's the suggestion here, is do the Winnipeg Jets need a culture change? And if they do, is there a better way to do it than trading Mark Scheifele and buying out Blake Wheeler? That's what he's saying. He's saying it without saying it. And hey, listen, I don't want to put words in John Shannon's mouth. I have all the respect in the world for him. Phenomenal guy, smart guy. It blew my mind when he brought this up. But that's the suggestion, is that sometimes you've got to go in a starkly different direction with a team. And if we're talking about, if you are talking about trading Mark Scheifele, Ken, and that's the conversation that people are having. Do you achieve what you are trying to achieve by moving Mark Scheifele if you are not moving Blake Wheeler as well?
I don't think it's a package deal. I mean, I know that their preference is to play together and everything else, but here's the other part, Sean. I mean, I understand the Wild did it in a pandemic as well, but they also have had fans all year long, and the rules have been different. I just don't see in a year where the Jets have not been able to have fans at times, coming after a year where they had no fans for the entire season. I don't see a commitment like of that magnitude coming monetarily. I don't see them doing it, especially to their captain, who they obviously have invested a lot in, and whose captain has given them a lot. So, could I see Blake Wheeler wanting to be open to a trade at some point? I mean, I guess it's conceivable, but I mean, Blake's been pretty open about what the city and the organization has meant to him. I think it would take a lot for a conversation to be had. First and foremost, Blake has all the power. He has a full no movement clause, so there would be no move without him being consulted. First, in terms of being open to it, and secondly, signing off on it. So I don't see a buyout either. I mean, that's a big ticket. They would still be, I think it would still cost them on the cap as well. So I don't see that happening. I do think that, it's got to be a realistic conversation that Mark Scheifele is in play in terms of conversation. Do the Jets have to be blown away by an offer? Absolutely. But I do think that for the first time in 11 seasons, I think that they would be in a situation where I think that both. I mean, I think there have been times where Mark Scheifele looks like a guy who could benefit from a fresh start, much like Patrick Laine has benefited. I mean, yes, it took a while and everything else, but I also don't think that Mark Scheifele is calling his agents and saying, "I want to get out of here," either. So it's a delicate matter. There's no doubt about that. I don't see a buyout in Blake Wheeler's future. At some point, could there be a trade where the Jets eat half the salary? I mean, I guess it's conceivable. I don't think it happens imminently. But the Scheifele situation, Sean, is one that, quite frankly, we'll be watching with great interest. First, before the deadline, and then basically throughout the offseason. Or I'll be certainly watching, and I know you will be too.
So I don't think for a second it's going to happen. I do think that it was interesting. I think it's an interesting topic to bring up, and I think because here's where I take this. You've heard my stand on this before with Kevin Cheveldayoff, and basically my feeling with Chevy is that no one should wear this year other than him. He had an opportunity to change. Like if what we're looking at right now, and a lot of people are suggesting it, if you've got on paper everything you need, but the team isn't playing the way that it should be playing to win games, and that has to be on coaching. Now, whether or not we know about the loyalty that they feel in True North, I, again, don't think for a second that Paul Maurice was going anywhere. But Paul Maurice stepping aside provided an opportunity for Kevin Cheveldayoff to put this team in a new direction. He was seeing something from this team that he didn't like and thought that a new philosophy or something like that would get this team over the hump. He had the opportunity in season to do that. It was thrust upon him. Look at it like an opportunity. He didn't do anything with that. Dave Lowry, I think, despite the fact that I do think Dave Lowry does a better job of asking from his players and rewarding his players when they do what is asked of them, compared to Paul Maurice, I do think that they're playing the exact same strategies, the exact same style as they were under Paul Maurice. Nothing has changed. So if that's the problem, there was an opportunity to address that problem. I just wonder, and a lot of people are saying this, to me, if the Jets miss the playoffs this year, it's a compounded issue for me. I don't just look at this saying, oh, well, they missed the playoffs this year. We talked about last season, how they came in, they made the playoffs as the 14th of 16 teams. The year before that, they were on the outside looking in, but made it in. And who knows, maybe they would have made it down the stretch. But, they were not one of the top 16 teams and lost in the play-in. So, people can talk about the play-in, but the play-in was an opportunity for the Jets to get to a dance that they hadn't had a good enough record to get to, and they lost that opportunity. The thing about this for me is, and it's the reason I bring up the whole idea, and a lot of people think it's crazy, the idea of moving Scheifele, the idea of moving Wheeler, basically the idea of moving on and trying a different philosophy, a different leadership group, and seeing what that does with the room, is you kind of got to look down the stretch here and say, like, how, never mind the fact that, Chevy's been here since 2011, how many times he's missed the playoffs, how many playoff series they've won since then. There's been a bet that was placed in 2018 and probably before that on this core. And how many years now has that bet not paid off? That's the issue that I'm talking about here. You can say what you want about, like, the team that he's built, what they look like on paper, the way the team is drafted. The fact of the matter, when it comes down to it, is if you look at them losing this year, what we are looking at is a team that we thought was ascending to the highest heights in 2018 that is inexorably got worse every single year after that. And that's a problem. Like, if you're a general manager, how many general managers are given 5 years where the results just keep going down and down and down, and are expected to be in a situation where you lean on that GM to fix a problem that he clearly hasn't been able to fix over that time.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I mean, I would also say that if the general manager addresses the core issues, I mean, I don't know. I think that often we let the players off the hook. I mean, if the players don't get the job done, I mean, I guess it's twofold. It's got to be a shared responsibility by everyone. So, yeah, I mean, it's a super complicated scenario and structure. It's one thing to say you're going to change the culture, but you also have to bring in players who are going to be culture carriers. I mean, the Jets already tried to address that in bringing in Nate Schmidt and Brendan Dillon, and there's no question they have changed the culture around this team and the mood around this team. So, again, when you look at potential trades and moves and changing the core group, you also have to make sure you're bringing guys in that are quality people. I mean, that's the other part of it. So, and again, to me, it's also a very tough thing because one of the more complicated parts for us in terms of our jobs is that we don't see the dynamics at play. For 2 years, we haven't been in the room. We haven't seen how people interact. We don't have a feeling for what dynamics are at play. Again, we don't know what complications people are having in their own personal lives and everything else. So, and the other thing too, I mean, we talked about Pionk earlier. I mean, Pionk's having a tough year. There's no doubt about that. He had the two best years of his career before that. So, which was the real Neil Pionk? Was it the previous 2 years, or is it this year? I mean, we often see guys in the first year of a big ticket struggle with the enormity of the situation and trying to live up to the contract, all of those things. So, I think the Jets have done a good job of expanding their leadership group to kind of take some of the pressure off those guys that wear letters. And I think that it's important that they continue to bring in guys that want to be here and make those kind of commitments because, let's not kid ourselves. It's tough to bring in players to this market at times. And they're going to continue to have to look for those kind of players. So, again, this is not to discount what anyone has done previously or what they could do in the future. But right now, the mix is not working, Sean. And when the mix is not working, you have to look at other alternatives, and everything should be on the table. I mean, you have to listen. Teams are trying to improve all the time. So I'm not saying you need to get rid of 25 people, but I think they need to change the mix, and I think the construction of the roster is more flawed than necessarily the moves that have or have not been made.
Okay, Ken, I'm only getting a bit of what you're saying there. Save a mess here. I'm trying hard, but it's a mess. I realize that, so I'm going to get into this now while we still can, because this isn't stopping anytime soon. They're practicing something on the ice here, and it's loud as heck as here. So thanks for your patience, everybody, sticking with us in this. Ken, I'm going to have to catch the end of the show and find out exactly what you said there. It looked profound, I'll be honest. It looked profound, as it always is. Everyone, I appreciate that. I'm going to cut out of here as quick as I can. Before we do go, quickly though, just a little bit of a sales pitch. If you need merch for Kenny and Renny, shirts, mugs, water bottles, we got a whole bunch of stuff there. Go check out www.sportsnetstore.com sportsnet.store and check us out. We got some great stuff there, and we really do appreciate your support, everybody, and we really appreciate your comments. As always, they drive this show. You did another phenomenal job here tonight. Thank you so much. We will see you after the game on